All right, so about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, we had that ice storm come through Houston and killed a lot of pools and stuff like that. I'm going to attempt something today with the issue that we had with ours. Basically, our pool heater had rusted to the point where it was still holding water until things froze, and then whenever water froze and expanded, it broke out that rust area, and basically the basin in the pool heater is cracked. It rusted through, and it no longer holds water. So I'm going to turn the camera around here and show you what happened whenever it did that. So this is my pool. You can see it's very green. It hasn't run in probably 2 weeks now. And I first started noticing whenever the hot tub started draining out so low. You notice it's almost down to the step area, and it's pretty nasty right now. Our goal is to get it cleaned up and go back up and going again. So I first noticed it whenever we tried to run the hot tub. The water table in the hot tub was draining out really, really fast. And I'm sitting here scratching my head, what's going on, what's going on? The pool was draining out. And then probably about 3-4 days before spring break hit, my wife and I tried getting in the hot tub, nice evening, whatever, and I turned it on, and within about the time it would take to heat it up, the water table had dropped down to the step area like you saw. So I went around and looked at the heater, and water's just pouring out. In fact, here's a video of what I took several weeks ago. So you can see by that, it's leaking from where the thermostats go into the pool pump or go into the heater, and it's also leaking from down below the basin. My goal today is going to be to walk you through how to get all this apart. This is my first time doing it. I don't know if it's going to work. Our pool guy recommended that I just get a new heater. Unfortunately, with COVID and everything right now, everything is so far on back order. I have no chance of getting a heater in within the next few weeks. It's likely to be 3 to 4 months back order. So I'm going to try to fix it. We're going to see how all this goes. I'm going to walk you through what I'm doing. If it works, great, fine, and good. You can try it on your own. I am not recommending this. This is something my pool guy did not recommend. But I want to get this thing up and going so that I can run my pool without redirecting the lines away from the heater. That's actually a pretty simple fix. It only cost you about $50 at Lowe's. But if you're a do-it-yourself guy, it's not hard. Even if you aren't a do-it-yourself guy, it's still not that difficult. But I'd rather not replumb things. I'd rather just fix the heater, make it work right, limp along until we can save up enough to get a good heater. All right, so here's how I'm doing it. Okay, so here's my setup. We've got the bubbler box for the hot tub, breakers for the pool thing, for the pool electronics. First things first, before I do anything, I'm going to kill all the breakers, turn everything off. That way there's no lights, no nothing, there's no power going to anything. Second thing I'm going to do is over here, this is my heater. This is what I'm going to be working on. I've got to get the cover off, I've got a 10 mil impact driver, just because I hate doing things by hand if I don't have to. So I'm just going to unscrew that by using the driver. This is the cover. What I'm working on today is a Pentair Master Temp 400. Like I said, I am no expert on this whatsoever. So please don't take anything what I'm doing and say, oh, he's a professional. No, I am not. I am just a do-it-yourselfer that's trying to get along. The second thing I'm going to do, because this is a natural gas line, I'm going to take my gas shutoff valve and shut off my gas. That way I can pull everything apart, pull it out, and I'm not going to hurt anything or have any natural gas bleeding out here. So my first things first is I'm going to remove 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts from this cover to get this off. Okay, so I've got the gas shut off, I've got the breaker shut off. Next thing I did is I removed this panel. There's a panel on this side and there's a panel around the back side over there. I've already got that one started so you can see. All right, each panel has 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts. I've already gotten these loosened up. Once you get these off, you can take this cover off. All right, so once you get this cover off, the next step after that is going to be the 4 wing nuts. What I mean by that, there are 4 wing nuts under here. One goes right here, one goes right here, and then there's another one back in that corner, and another one back in that corner once you get that backside panel off. You get those 2 panels off and you get these 4 wing nuts out here. This top will lift off, and then you'll have access to look down at everything and see what's going on here. All right. In order to get this off, you must remove this wiring harness. This is the wiring harness for the control board. That's the circuit board for your heater. All right. So that has to get unplugged. Okay. So you got 4 bolts out of this panel, 4 bolts out of the backside panel, and then 4 wing nuts off from each of the corners so that the top can lift off. All right, so I got the top off of here. Next step is to uncouple the wiring harness here for the circuit board. And then I should be able to uncouple the power and get this thing out of here. I'll uncouple the power and the gas. All right, so like I said, I'm going this step by step. Like I said before, I am not a professional, so please don't assume that. All right, I got the cover off. There she is. Wiring harness is all the way unplugged. Good. My next step, because this whole thing is going to come out of here as one unit, hopefully, with all goes well. Next thing I need to do is disconnect my power. This is where my power comes in right here, and it's got a cover on it here. This is a 1/4 inch socket. I have my socket right here. It should just be the 2, 1, 2, and it'll kind of rotate up. You can see that by this here. So I should just be able to loosen this, take this one off, and it should come out, and I can unplug my wiring harness here. Okay, so real quick, getting this off. The ground wire here, all right, is a fork split. This screw right here is a 9mm deep socket. So if you have a 9mm deep socket, you'll be able to get that off. Important thing to note, you've got 3 wires coming into this. You've got green coming in from the line, and then, sorry, green coming out of the line. So green to green. Then you also have blue to dark blue, also blue to red. So some way to keep these square, what I would do is I would put a wing nut on one of them, so you keep, or a wing nut on one of these, so you keep it square. So what I'm going to end up doing, I will untap this one here. All right, and now the red has to come with me because I'm going to take this whole thing, this whole unit out as one piece. So whenever I get this off of here, okay, red comes off, just like that. I'm going to put my wing nut on this blue so that I remember, okay, this one comes to this. And then blue to blue is easy to remember, green to green is easy to remember. That way I keep things square. And whenever I come back to it, I know which one goes to which. And I'm going to keep working at this, and I'll come back to you. Hopefully this whole thing is just going to pull out here whenever it's all said and done. Okay, so here we are. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 of the harness bolts for the tub, for the basin, loosened up. I disconnected my spade relays here and also down here so that I can just lift this whole thing out. The only one left is this relay. I'm guessing this is some sort of thermostat line that goes over to the breaker box back over here. Now the other thing I did that you're gonna have to do is loosen these unions here. Now you see this is all wet down here. We are dealing with water, so I mean that's gonna happen. But this is the inlet and this is the outlet right here, okay? This one, whenever you loosen the bottom one here, is likely to leak water. That's all the water you see here. All that is just draining whatever's left out of your pool filter over here, okay? So it's not a whole lot. It's gonna run out. There's probably some water left in the basin, so it's not all the way dry. But by the looks of it, once I get this wire disconnected, and I'm gonna undo my pipe from here. This is my gas line, right? This right here. I'm gonna undo from here, simply because this is welded, this is welded. I could undo from here, but I don't wanna, maybe I will, I don't know. Hard to say. But once I get either this one, or this one, whichever comes loose first, probably the other one because it's not as rusted. Once I get these loose, I'm going to loosen my ring clamp right here from the basin. And I'm going to take the ring clamp off. I'm going to lift all of this. You got your blower, you got your controller, you got your igniter. I mean, all of this stuff here. This is all going to come off, so I'm left with just the basin. And then I'm going to take the basin out and work on it. Okay? So that's where I'm at so far. Okay, so you can see here I've got my gas union detached. My gas is shut off completely. There is no gas smell. If you smell a little bit of gas when you first pull this off, great, fine and good. When you first pull this off, great, fine and good. That's normal. That's just the remainder of whatever's sealed up in the lines getting out. But if you continue to smell it, that ain't turned off. Get that tight and call the gas company. But no, I don't smell any more gas, so it's shut off all the way. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to detach these two spade terminals down here. You can see them here. I'm going to take a picture of it so I know which ones go where on this side and also down on this side. You can see there's 4 different colors. I've got brown, I've got orange, I've got purple right there, and then red down there. So I'm going to detach those next, and then hopefully with any luck, this all comes out. You can see I took my ring clamp loose here. So if everything's right, this should just lift out. It's going to be heavy. So don't be surprised. It's going to be heavy. Okay, so to make my life a little bit easier, and probably one of the first steps should have been to take this panel off. I didn't see it here. There's 3 bolts. I used a 10 mil on those. That way it'll your gas excess release here and your unions for your pull system are going to come out right there. And getting that housing off is going to make getting this whole thing out a lot easier. So do yourself a favor and do this kind of first. Okay, so you can see here I've got the top part of my basin off. It's got the heater core right there. Insulation stuff, that actually is not looking too awfully bad. But then we get over here to the actual basin with the heating radiator fins. So you can see here, if you look down here, got my hand on the outside over here. Check this out. There it is. All right. Let's see if I can get a better, there we go. Yeah, see my fingers down there? Yeah, that's how bad that got. So, then we got daylight over that way. So basically the whole bottom edge of this down here needs patched, fixed, cleaned up somehow. So my next step is going to be to take the intake and inlet and outlet ports off. That should be, by the looks of it, one. Oh goody, all rusted. That's going to be 8 of these bolts down each side. Oh, I'm sorry, 5 down each side. So there's 10 bolts total. And I got to figure a way to get all this cleaned up. Now here's the tricky part. Finding a sealant that can withstand high heat. So I don't know if you noticed, but you see my little can sitting back there. Got a can of Flex Seal. Flex Seal is rated up to, I believe, 300 degrees. I was going to see if I could fiberglass all this in and just create basically a fiberglass liner to withstand the pressure and the heat and all that kind of stuff. Great, fine, and good. But I don't think fiberglass is going to cut it, as fiberglass is only good for about 200 degrees. So, yeah, that's about where we're at. So there's the problem. Whenever it froze, the residual water in here basically busted all that out down there. So now, the leaky video you saw earlier, yep, that's where we're at. All right, so I'm gonna keep tearing apart here, and I will get back to y'all. All right, so we're back to the pool heater here. Had to stop and get some lunch for a little bit. Yeah, so my next step is going to be to clean out the combustion chamber, the basin. And once I get that cleaned out, I'm going to take a wire brush to it, scrape off as much of the rust as I possibly can, get rid of the loose debris, all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to take it apart. It makes me nervous to take it apart, simply because I'm sure the gasket has failed. But if I take it apart, I'm worried that there's so much rust that it will just fall apart, and then I'll never get it back together. So I'm going to get as cleaned up as I can reach. And then to patch it, I've got the Flex Seal, but I've also picked up muffler tailpipe tape, patch tape, repair tape. It's rated up to 1900 degrees. So between that on the inside, I'm going to coat it around the inside edge, and then on the outside I'm going to coat it with the Flex Seal. Between those two things and then coating the rest of it, hopefully I can at least stop leak whatever is going on with this thing. Okay, I'm gonna see. I don't know. I'm skeptical at best, but we'll see what happens. All right, so I got the wire wheel out on the drill and took care of a lot of the rust. As you can see from the bottom of this, it was quite the hole. That was more than just surface rust. It was rusted the whole way through. Clearly daylight through there. By the looks of it, the gasket, I'm guessing, had been leaking. I took the wire wheel to all of this here. You can see where it was going around. And we got another rust spot down on this side. Yeah, so what had happened, I don't think there was actually any water in this ever. I think what happened is this here, the insulation on the bottom took on water and just soaked it up like a sponge. Apparently there was some moisture or something that had gotten into here, and it just sat and festered and created what we see here. All right, so my next step is going to be to take this muffler tape, and I'm going to layer and layer and layer the whole way across here, covering up as much of this stuff as I can. And then once I get that covered up, I'm going to take the Flex Seal can over there, and I'll just paint anything that looks rusty. I'll paint it with the Flex Seal and hope to God that holds. Okay, so I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with exhaust tape, but it is super duper sticky. I should probably have gloves on. I didn't, and you can see my fingers are extremely goopy and sticky even after washing. But I got the exhaust tape on. I'm about to put the Flex Seal on. I'll show you what I did here. So flip the camera around. There it is. You can see I've got a majority of the leak hole covered, the big one. On the way around here up to the side, that's the exhaust tape covering up. I'm going to take this and I'm going to smear Flex Seal all across it. And then I'm going to let it sit out here and dry for probably the better part of 2 hours. So I'm going to get that coated up here. I'll send in the final result after I get that done. And then probably the next step, if you look here, this side along here isn't quite as rusted, nearly as rusted as this side. I'm guessing this thermostat here, that's what that is, ended up leaking somewhere along the lines and water just started pouring out here. Same with this one. I replaced this one maybe 1.5 years ago. I cannot remember if I put plumber's tape on it or not, but I did get some plumber's tape, and after I smear it with Flex Seal and all that and it dries, actually first I might go ahead and do that first, put plumber's tape on there and then Flex Seal the whole thing. Remember, I am doing this as a temporary fix. This is not a permanent fix by any means. Basically, because of the freeze and COVID in the Houston area, pool heaters are pretty much not available for at least the next 3 to 6 months. So I am doing everything I can to make it last, just to stretch it. If I completely screw this up and it doesn't work, then I can just replumb my pipes over here. So it goes, instead of going into where the heater would be, it just U-turns and comes back around. I can replumb that. That's a 30-minute job and some pipe at Lowe's. But if it does work and I bought myself some extra months of pool heater, then great, fine, awesome, so be it. So I don't intend on keeping this unit at all. You can see to get it out here on the plastic housings and such, I did take tin snips and I had to cut a little bit of the plastic housing off here, and I had to cut it off there so that I could get it out correctly, just because it's assembled in a factory and the whole thing comes as one unit. So, but that's where I'm at, and I'll keep you posted as I go along here and work on my pool heater repair. All right, so as you can see here, I pretty much coated all of this with Flex Seal. I did put plumber's tape on those two thermostats there. Plumber's tape to seal those up, just to make sure. And then I literally coated the whole bottom of this thing with Flex Seal. Hopefully in an effort to prevent more rust from happening. I don't know if this is going to work. It could. It is very possible. Or it could not. I'm not sure. We will see. Now this stuff takes, directions say 24 to 48 hours. So what I'm going to end up doing is I will move this piece to the garage. I will pack up my tools and I will cover the rest of this with a tarp so that it's not exposed whenever morning dew, condensation, all that good stuff happens. But for now, that's where we're at. We shall see. All right, so day 2 of pool heater fix. I've got the combustion chamber, the basin is fully dried on the outside. I'm getting ready to start working on the inside of it. So there you can see there's the outside of it. Did a pretty good job sealing everything up. There is one spot right there you can see. Hopefully whenever I flip this thing over and start working on the inside, I can fill that gap. But that is the only gap left in the whole thing. So I'm going to get to work putting stuff on the inside of this thing. I hope to God this works. Okay, so I opted not to put anything in here just because whenever you put the top on this, there's the core of this, the burner actually goes down in the center. And I'm afraid if I put anything, especially in the center area here, it's just going to burn. And I don't want smelt rubber, burning rubber, whatever, going on inside this container. That'd be bad. And you can already see I slapped a little bit of Flex Seal down there and a little bit right there on the fins. But that's all on the outside of it. I don't have anything on the inside of it here. That looks like it's, well, rusted, obviously, but ought to be pretty okay. I think I pretty much got everything sealed up on the outside over here. You can see down here where I had that hole is now sealed up tight. So as soon as this stuff dries, which will be tomorrow evening, I will put it all back together and start it up. At the very least, hopefully it sealed everything up so I'm not leaking water everywhere. But whether the heater works, to be determined. I did want to mention real quick that I ended up covering the top part of the combustion chamber where the blower is, all the electronics, all of that. It looks like it was going to rain tonight. So I covered all that up with a tarp. Just loosely covered it and weighted it down with some spare boards I had in the backyard, that sort of stuff. But yeah, so that's covered and out of the weather. I would recommend against getting that wet. I do have an exposed natural gas pipe back there. Like I said, the gas is off, but I don't want to get any water in those pipes. I don't want to get any water on exposed metal or anything like that. That's just electronics and metal and water don't always go the best together. So that's all tarped off, and hopefully we don't get too bad of storms tonight, and it stays covered. It should. And then yeah, tomorrow we'll get this this heater put back together. It should be probably about an hour and a half process or so. So until next time. Okay, so back at the pool heater again. I got things pretty well lined up. It's sitting on top. I'm about to start reassembly. I'll start walking you through that process here. You're just basically going backwards order of everything I just did. I've still got all the bolts there, and I took reference pictures as I made this video, so I know what color wires get plugged in where and all that kind of stuff. So anyways, here's where I'm at. You can see I've got the top part now sitting on top of the basin or the combustion chamber. Everything is as it was before. Here's the blower, electronics, exhaust vent. You can see I've got the two side panels and the top panel there setting apart. It did rain last night and I had everything stacked here. Just covered it all with a tarp, so that all worked out. One thing to note, when you're putting these things back together, I'll make sure that this isn't sticking onto there. This is your sealing ring here. Make sure your rubber gasket is seated, this here. Make sure this is seated all the way correctly. And then you should have a tab here that lines up with the mount point here. So these two should be in line. That's how you know everything is straight across and lined up the way it should be. So if you take notice of pictures and stuff as you do this before, you'll notice this tab and this mount point should line up perfectly. All right, so here we are. We're gonna start the reassembly. I'm gonna make sure, like I said, my gasket here is lined up correctly. And then I'm gonna put the sealing ring, the clamp ring back on here. That's just a screw and a bolt. And then I'm gonna get my spade connectors all tapped up there, and we'll start getting this thing lined back up and into where it belongs, and probably clean up a little bit of that insulation in there as well. Okay, so where I'm at right now is I have everything in loose. I did have this tight, but I figured out I had to loosen it up. I have the bolt down here somewhere. And I also loosened up my mounting brackets here, my shock mounts from the side panels. The side panels are in. I tightened those up, each of the 4 corners down here, back of there, and then back around that side. And I have the shock mounts in loose. The reason being, I had to rotate the top part of this, all the hardware. I had to rotate that a little bit in relation to the basin because this point wasn't quite square here. All right, that needs to be absolutely perfectly square. If it is not, your things, your intake manifold, your exhaust port, your exhaust port up here, all that stuff will not line up with the plastic panels that go around this for the housing. So what I'm talking about is your intake manifold has to go through this panel piece here. All right, this panel piece here had to come off. You see, I had to modify it down there a little bit to get it off. It did not clear on this side, so I actually had to twist everything so that the intake manifold here cleared this side panel. Now that that's cleared, I can tighten everything down. Once I get everything tightened down, I can put the screws back in, at least this side panel. I can get the top panel on, get my circuit board wired up. And then once I have the circuit board wired up and I have at least the top panel and both the side panels on, then I can wire my power right there. Remember, we have 2 blue wires. We took note of that earlier. One goes to a red, one goes to a green. All right? So that's where we're at. We're going to keep plugging away at it. Okay, so here's where we're at with everything. I have my unions all secured up. Now, when you do those, when you put your unions back together, keep in mind that there is a black O-ring that sits inside the white. The O-ring does not sit in any groove on the actual manifold. It sits inside the PVC from the union. All right, so there's an O-ring with a groove in there. Make sure that O-ring is seated up tight. And when you screw these things down, make sure they're not cross-threaded. They won't screw down the whole way. Make sure you have everything lined up right. And just take your time, hand tighten it good and tight. And then take a pair of like vice grip pliers or something like that that's got a really solid grip, and really tighten those down the whole way. I've got my electrical all tapped up exactly the way I pulled it out. So if you remember, I had the 1 blue wire that had the wire nut on it. I reattached the red to the wire with the wire nut. Everything is good. My gas is turned back on. Whenever I turned my gas on, I did this. I turned my gas on before I plugged any electrical in. When I turned my gas on, I made sure my joint there and my joint back in there was solid. And when I turned it on, I made sure not to smell any gas. You always want to make sure you don't smell gas before you run electric. For obvious reasons, I shouldn't have to explain that if you're this far into it. So yeah, I had my gas turned on, and then I did my electric. I got my circuit board all plugged in there. We are about to find out the moment of truth if I actually fixed the leak. So here we go. All right. Come over here to my box, turn my breakers back on. When my lights come on, everything's good. Clears out. Yes, good. All right. Give it a second here. Put it in service mode. Turn the filter on, see how we did. It's gonna bubble and all that kind of stuff because there's all kinds of air in the lines. That's normal. All right. My water's coming back in. The pool is still ridiculously green. There's that. I need to tighten that one down. And I'm still pushing water through right there. So not the top one. Oh, hold on. Is it? Yeah. Right there. I got a pretty bad leak at that union, so I need to tighten that union up and see what I can see about fixing that up. All right. As you can see, nasty green pool, but we have ignition. All right. So the way this works, so far seems to be doing okay. I do have one small leak. I can patch that up tomorrow. It took me a little bit doing. You see down here at the unions, the bottom one here, it's got a slow drip right there. That's the only drip coming off the unions. It means I need to get this one a little bit tighter. If I line these up, you can see the top one is a shade more screwed down than the bottom one. The first time I tried firing this up, the O-ring seal had come off and I didn't see it, so it was spraying water everywhere. So I shut the filter off, undid the union, put the O-ring back in, had it seated upright, and now I just have that small little drip there. Not too bad. As far as inside the heater, you can see I still have a drip, but it's not nearly what it was. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this run tonight because my pool is in bad shape. And I'll cut it off in the morning. I'll let it sit out here in the heat of the day. Hopefully it'll dry out, and then I'll put another coat of Flex Seal on all those joints there. It's that lower the two thermostat there. It's the lower thermostat right around that where it's leaking. So I'm going to end up throwing the heater away at the end of the springtime anyways. So I really don't care. So I'm just going to coat that with Flex Seal tomorrow afternoon, and then we will call this a done deal. I will let you know tomorrow afternoon after I coat, or 2 days from now, after I coat it and let it dry, I will try the heater. So today is Tuesday. I will try the heater on Thursday to see if my patch job here actually worked. All right, so it's been a few days since I put the second or third or whatever coat of Flex Seal on the small little drippy area that was on the pool heater. As you can hear, it's running, and as you can see, for the most part, I got a little bit of water right there, but otherwise back around here it's dry. So it's dripped out. If you look, it's dripped out of that pipe right there, but the rest of this, it's damp, but it's not pouring out like it was. So I think we're going to call this project done. Winner chicken dinner. It is sealed. I have not tested if it's going to hold heat yet, being that Flex Seal is rated for up to 300 degrees, and that the muffler tape that I used is rated up to, I think, 1900 degrees. I don't see an issue with the Flex Seal. I don't see it becoming an issue, just because the pool heater heats water up to a max temperature of 104 for the spa, and I think 95 for the pool. I'm not sure. But if it's only going to be that much, and the Flex Seal is rated for 300, I can't see it getting so terribly hot that it actually burns rubber, so to speak. But yeah, so I'm going to call it done, and project complete. Saved myself, what is it for a new heater? About $3,000, or if you get the heater cooler unit, it's like $4,200. I spent, let's see, it was $30 for the can of Flex Seal. It was another $8 for the muffler tape. I should have gotten 2 packs of that. I only got one, so $16 there. So we're into what, $46 in stuff. The paintbrushes for the Flex Seal, don't try to reuse those. They're done. And I just got the cheapo chip brushes at Lowe's. They were like 98 cents a piece. yeah, so I mean, all in all, for what was $50 and a lot of man hours, and of course the tools and stuff to do it, I'll call it a win. So I hope this helps. If, again, like I said, this is my first time ever doing this. I am by no means a professional. I am simply just a do-it-yourself guy trying to figure out a way to save myself a couple bucks in replacing a heater right now when they're all out of stock. And, you know, with COVID and everything else, I can't get one for like 3 months. So if this makes me the next 6 weeks until we're in the heat of Texas summer, then I'll call it a win. And we can save up and do what we need to do and really shop around, but we're not in a bind for a new heater. So if this helps you, great. If you've got the time, the patience, the energy, the know-how, the will to do it, awesome. But I will tell you, it's a lot of work. So best of luck to you, and stay safe. All right, so just a quick update on the pool situation. Something I didn't realize and had to troubleshoot the living daylights out of for the past 2 or 3 days is after I put everything back together, got the compressor and the heater unit all back together, and everything was up and running, no leaks, verified that, my heater would not turn on. So apparently the igniter, which is this box here, so if you see the picture, that's what it looks like. This end underneath, sorry. This end down here is the igniter part, and this plugs into all the wires and stuff you can see. This actually goes down into the combustion chamber, all right? This stone actual piece right here. If you look at it, so whenever I took everything apart, apparently I broke it, and I didn't know it was something to break. This is the old one, okay? You can see here, I spliced the wires off and whatnot, but if you look really close, see if I can get the camera on it here. I don't know how good that's going to work. Anyways, those little ends are actually stone pieces, and this creates a complete circuit between the top and the bottom one here. So that when it's all together, it looks like that. Something along those lines. So the blades are actually connected as one piece. So what it is, I ordered a new one, and then the new one for the Pentair Master Temp 400 is actually a Robert Shaw brand authentic parts. Okay, there's the brand, and it's part number, where is it here? 41401, right there. Cartridge igniter. Okay, oh, I'm sorry, carbide igniter. I'm reading it backwards in the camera. It's a carbide igniter, so it's a carbide stone igniter, ignition on it. These wires were actually insulated right here. I had to splice the old plug, the one that originally came onto this, onto the new igniter because the plugs have since changed and my plug is very, very old. So once I got that on, the heater kicked on no problem. I have spa heat, I have pool heat. It ignited right away, all is good. So just want to let you guys know, be careful when you're tearing things apart. If your igniter is good, unlike this one here, then great, fine and good. And if it's not, it is the replacement, at least for the Pentair Master Temp 400, is the Robert Shaw Carbide Igniter 41-401. Okay? So a little addendum there to the end of the video, but there you have it. Thanks a lot. Hope everything helps you guys. I really do. Bye.